through watching. I want to tell you about Lisa Cabrera. She's one of my favorite YouTubers, and she just got through talking about DeFord Bailey. DeFord Bailey was an African American musician, and what's so significant about him, he was the first musician to ever play the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, the first to perform a country song too. So with everything that's going on with Beyonce, it's time that you do some history, get some understanding about some stuff, and also understand that what they're trying to say. Because not only black folks that created the music, but also created with, country music, but also with the guitar, also with the banjo. Just understanding what's going on at work here. How white supremacy is trying to dictate the music. So Beyonce, even if she was just trolling or something, come to front, this is a historical implication. So when people come at you, what's up? What's up? How you doing? What's up? How you feeling? Someone comes up to you and says, well, Eminem is doing rap or this or that and the other. Well, then you can say, well, black folks did country. So there is no limitation. There is no limitation. And I applaud that this information is being pushed out because, I'm not a Beyonce fan by no stretch like that. But with this going on, this kind of hate, this kind of will to tell you that you can't do it, what's happening? Good to see you. If you can't speak out on it and you can't create, you're limiting an artist. It's a canvas. Everybody has that right to paint their picture. So I wanted to direct that and talk about that first and foremost because I was glad to see that, you know, it was very important that that was done to see that. Too often than not, people sit around and think there were so many limitations and they don't understand about what's going on. So it's important, that people understand that the history, uh, creation, and so many ways of life, we're nowhere near even the half of inclusion. But you have to educate. It's very important that it's education. So uh, I wanted to put that out there. That a shout out for Lisa Cabrera for bringing that about D. Ford Bailey. And if you don't know him, look him up because then you're gonna find out how, again, so much for creativity. And what we talk about, we be talking about entertainment, we be talking about sports, we talk about politics, gets whitewashed. They have you thinking that black folks was just happy to be slaves and just kumbaya around the fire and getting lynched without telling you about people's contributions. It's very important that you understand that the people that paved the way can't depend on the history books. You can't depend on the music industry, entertainment industry. They tell you nothing because it's been whitewashed. You know, just like black folks created hip hop, but you've seen how whitewashed it's become. You know, and I understood why um, Melly Mel had issue with Eminem. I did too because I see how and Busta Rhymes come along. These people come around, Fat Joe, these industry spies, trying to downplay the African American experience with the music. It's deep. And then when we talk sports, we're talking about, I like what Julius Erving was telling Shaq. I was peeping that out about how they whitewashed. They told him that they only wanted to show a certain era. That's what they do. They hyphenate stuff that they do. It's kind of like what happened with Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech. Everything gets kind of sampled and looped, so you don't get the gist of what's really going on, and you really don't know. And then when you are trying to, just get past the sound bites and the clips, there's a whole lot more to it than what they want, but they only want to give you a small feeder to make it sound good as a sample, as opposed to it being its full fruition. So I think it's important that you get the whole gist of everything. There's a lot to talk about. Um, Obviously, that Donald Trump $360 million suit. How does anyone think that that guy will? How does he lead a country when he can't even take care of his own affairs? That's really embarrassing. But that's who they want to push as their agenda. It's a sorry state of affairs going on with that. So, you know, and Yeah, I heard about the celebrity basketball thing. I saw that Michael Parsons got some token award. And at least he got one in February. That's the only. Oh, wait a minute. That's not for football. My bad. Crossing over Stephen A. Smith, but couldn't cross up Jordan Love. Okay. Good job, Micah. At least you got a trophy to put in your mantle place. That's just a shame when you think about these things. I saw Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp. What they were trying to do is trying to troll Dylan Brooks. That's what that whole mess was. I saw that mess. I was cracking up about that. Cracking up. That was hilarious. Dylan Brooks became like a spokesperson for how to get under your skin. So yeah, peeped out some old NBA All Star games I hadn't seen in a long time. Because I'm, what's up? Come on through. It was good to reminisce. I got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. Uh, no, not even close. No, I'm just starting. I've been on probably about 5 minutes or so, and when if you look at the rerun, you'll see that I talked about D. Ford Bailey. He's the first black country artist. He was the first person to play the Grand Ole Opry. There's his soul sister named Lisa Cabrera. I follow her, and she was doing a whole thing on her podcast talking about with Beyonce's fight and everything that's going on. And he was the one did the first country song and went into details. Went into details. Grand Ole Opry, everything. You know, the kind of stuff that you ain't gonna hear about, that the music industry ain't gonna tell you about. And she brought up a good point. Like when people try to defend Eminem and say, "Well, why are you rapping?" I said, "Well, defend someone black that's doing country." But then again, black folks discover both. Okay, so let's keep it 100. So now he did. So my grandmother on my mother's side used to say it all the time. She said the white folks loved Chuck Berry because he sounded like they thought he was white because of his tone and his feel. And he had the blues in the country, which he did. You can call him the king of rock and roll if you want to. You can make a strong case, you can. I mean, his songs, his boogie, his bop, you know. Um, he was a bad boy. Maybelline, all that. Some songs are classics, you know. That's all country music. As a matter of fact, if we're gonna go back before that, if you know about Robert Johnson, Hank Williams Sr. said that he was inspired by Robert Johnson's playing. And Robert Johnson was the blues and the gospel, which was country. That's what they were, you know. What else do you call it? That's what blues is an offshoot of it. Rhythm and the blues. Come on now. This twang a twang, wang, wang, wang thing is some out of tune stuff. Became a honky tonk and people have been stealing stuff and been getting away with whitening it down, and whitening it down, but you had to be able to, play at a certain tempo. That's the thing about country. That's what people don't forget. Even the fiddle players when if you put a kick drum in, it goes boom, 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 as opposed to boom, 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 boom. It's all how it's played. It's all tempos and chords. So if you're playing it, yeah, a lot of them cats, some cats play out of tune. And so they would sing out of tune too. Sing, where we gonna be, we are one. Where we gonna be, where won't. So yeah, some of the cats that come along. I remember Neil McCoy, who I did like his energy. He came out in the 90s. And I always said he had it was like a Michael Jackson curl of country, but he had the depth. But Darius got country in him. I mean, that's what Hootie and the Blowfish was. I only want to be with you. You call me a fool. I mean, I know REM was a big influence on them, but the cat was a country cat. I mean, I understand REM and Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam style on Darius, but Darius was a country brother. But he really went over and beyond and boy to, yeah. And that's what they've done. Cats, you know. But it's a sad commentary that Tracy Chapman just got the special award as a songwriter in the country thing. How long's country been around? See, that should tell you how racist it is right there. And Fast Car is still, which would be considered a country song if you think about it. Her tempo, her tone, it's got more of a country feel. If you think about it. But I don't know. I just know what they do. They whitewash everything and, so it's a good hot topic. Beyonce got people talking for that, more so than her music, but you know, Irreplaceable was a country song. She worked with Neo. She was doing country licks. That was country. Because her cadence is more pop based with a nod to Irish R&B, but it's a country feel. You know. See, that's the thing about with music. You can put it into any category you want. Who told you that had to be one thing? You know. Who said that? But it's the sad reality of how people typecast stuff, excuse me, and then they tell you that this is what you are, and then people fall for that mess. That's the sad reality, you know. And then, it's like I go with Duke Ellington used to say, see, the good music was bad music, but you put labels and stuff on it, and then you make it racial. And they've done it to black artists forever. The race records, black soul, all kinds of tokens, lump them with hip hop. Look at what they've done to black music in the business. It is racist and it's vile. Ray Charles broke down all the music. He was gospel, he was blues, he was pop, he was jazz. He could get funky. He covered a wide range. Wide range. What I say, when you hear what I say, pick your poison. I Just Can't Stop Loving You was a slow classic. I made up my mind. I mean, the instrumentation, you could take his music into different genres. It's an insult. And for most people who grew up on him, he's considered one of the fathers of music. And how could you argue against a guy that created so many styles? You can't. Had his box set too. Loved it. You know. Georgia, come on now. When you hear Georgia, come on now. I mean, and if you can go, you could take that to, you can go different extremes with that too. So, you know. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. A lot of uneducated folks with that. So that's just I had to get that off my chest. Um, checked out the surf. I surfed out pretty good today. I was checking out two Raws if Shaq would have won a title in Orlando, and I responded, and I might do my own spin-off video about that because I basically told him, and I said in that spot, I said Shaq got out of Orlando because Jerry West went there. You had the wrong head coach, wrong general manager, wrong personnel. Penny got hurt. I like Penny a lot. I said, but they were basically country bumpkins and hicks. And you come on there and you're a city slicker. Of course you're gonna get Shaq. Shaq's a generational talent. Yep. For being country and slow. I watched that the highlights of him in Orlando the other night, and I saw Brian Hill and him, and I said, good old folk and all, but you were slow. You can't have a generational talent like that and don't bring the team around him, the right coach, the right personnel. You can't. Y'all too slow. You ever been in a hick town or a small town and you felt like you was sleepwalking because everything was just so slow, and you at the stoplight and it goes green, and then it just kind of goes real slow, and you kind of like driving, you kind of like, and this was before electric cars came in. You just kind of like floating, and you floating. That's how it was. But you see, 25-year-old Shaq, vibrant. You gotta have that burst. So that's what was missing. That's what's missing. So, you know, they didn't put anything around him, so of course he's gonna split. Most people would. Yep. Just like with anything. I mean, if people know they're in a prominent peak or something ain't right, they gotta make that move. Just like when Snoop got out of death row, you know. So I saw that mess, and he always hurt himself because he really ain't that athletic. I mean, that pitch should have told him don't touch a baseball again. Pruitt got his ankles crossed. Well, like I said, Michael Parsons got his trophy for the year in February. It just wasn't for the trophy that you thought he was gonna get. But Stephen A ain't done been doing too well. And I do think that his COVID situation was pretty more extreme too. Because I really do believe that he really lost a lot. On a serious note, he went down twice with it. He was hospitalized 2021. So I do believe, he lost weight in his body, but I don't think his body is fully healed. Just saying. I do think about stuff like that. That's why I keep my mask on. So before anybody asks, I ain't stop wearing my mask. If you ever see me out in public or something, you know it's me because I'm rocking a mask. And this stuff ain't no joke. And I do believe that kind of in, you know, his sinuses, took a bank on him, but he know good and well he wasn't gonna do nothing, no celebrity game. He wasn't gonna do nothing. He out there gonna sit there and embarrass himself. I saw he made that corner, Jay. I saw that, you know. But Furana hurt himself. So, but yeah. So, I catch the highlights. Or, I'm not supporting that mess. Um, the 3 point will be interesting but you see, they slurping Caitlin Clark right now. They got her out to be, and I might do a video about that. They want Caitlin Clark to be the best women's player ever. Cheryl Miller still ranks high with me. I've seen others. She could shoot. Skills is probably more interesting to me. I don't really need to see a 3 point shootout because I see it every night. If I watch the NBA, that's all people do now. That's all them turkeys do is shoot. So I need something I don't see. I want to see some skills. So the skills is probably more interesting to me. You know, if you asking me, I'm not really that impressed with. I seen enough 3 point. Dunks don't really appeal to me because they'll probably get somebody that you ain't even heard of, like they did for Philly with that cat that came up to the G League and won. So I'm not even really feeling that. But the skills is probably gonna be the one that gets my attention. Yeah, I saw that. I think Terrell had something that came up on the feeder. Um, I acknowledge his birthday, but I don't sit around talking about it all the time. You know, I did last year when he turned 60, but I'm aware. I'm aware. I heard about Larsha Pippen and Marcus Jordan, so that's been all over the thing again. Reunited, whatever that's about. Just like Usher and Chili and all over People magazine, these people putting all their business out there. I tell you, nobody just kind of came to his senses. No, he's back with her. Are you telling me he came to his senses because he went back with her? Or you telling me he came to his senses when he broke up with her? I think he came to his senses when he broke up with her. Yep. It happened 2 days ago. She got the ring on her finger. He was hanging with his pops for the Super Bowl, then he came back, and so now he's back with her. All cuddled up. Yep. Saw it 2 days ago. She got a ring on her finger. That's what's up. Yep. Oh yeah. And like I said before. I made that joke. I was at Turo. I said to me the joke. I said, "Do you think he's Jordan must have gave one of them Magic Johnson video pool parties and saw where she was? Cause I'm gonna tell you something. These 304s who are in the industry and mess around, they ain't nothing new. They ain't nothing new. You know, she boasted about her and Scotty doing their business back, and you know, but the reality is she still be wanting to turn tricks. See, that's the thing. Tricks don't change, and hard heads don't either. But okay, you know. No, it's not even. I mean, I don't even look at the age as a problem. As I look at the fact that that's. I know how she gets down. You know, it's like that's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. So you know, but more power to it. I guess I can't really. I just all I did is I saw it. Yeah, but Madonna has always been like that though. And see, the difference is that between Madonna and Larsa Pippen, Madonna got her bag. Now, one thing about Madonna, she do her thing, you know, and if she wants to be a certain way, she do, and if she don't with it. That's how she's always been. Madonna ain't never hid about the streets. That's the difference. But you up here trying to get a come up and you're going living vicariously through the Kardashians and you playing the NBA wife or this and you're just you know this is trifling. I did too. Respect her because she's one of the most impactful artists of the last 45 years. I mean, you know, she was a front runner for a lot of female artists at a time when female artists, I mean, it's still sexist, but it was really. And she kept hit songs and she carved out her lane. Oh, yeah, that's not up for discussion. That's not even close. She got a better catalog, that alone. You know, one thing, if you ask me about music, I'm gonna be honest with you about music because unlike with sports, we can be biased in terms of what we think is a better player, though we can go by stats. But music, to me, it always comes down to your catalog and your impact. Beyonce ain't seeing nobody. She's not better. She's not seeing nobody like that. If she had a song like a Borderline or a Papa Don't Preach or Live to Tell or used to be my playground type of song, she'd be scared or like a prayer. She needs something like that. Then they would justify her career. She don't have that. So, and that's what hurts her career because she just doesn't have those kind of songs. So, yeah, but considering how long she's been around, it's kind of like when I was talking about Usher. You've been around 30, 80 years, and we ain't sitting up here talking about you got a nice little, nice, soft, cute song. We want to hear that classic that we can, that goes with shots fired around the world. We ain't trying to like give you little brownie points. I did hear about Kelly Rowland storming off of some show yesterday. That was hilarious. I didn't even know there was a show that let Kelly Rowland be on, but that was kind of funny to me. I ain't because I mean, Dilemma and her other hit been so long ago. I forgot about her solo career. My thing with Beyonce is just that she does work hard and everything, but it just wrong material and tries too hard to fit in. So tries to be deeper than the sum of the parts, And so sometimes with the fan base, they have a tendency to overhype it. They don't like it when you call them out on it, but I got to keep it 100. The problem is he just doesn't have a signature song. That's the biggest thing. More like to manifest that kind of career. But yeah, having said that though, she runs circles around Taylor Swift, but that ain't saying nothing. Well, yeah. Yeah, you can see it's out there front and center. There ain't no shame in it, you know. She ain't really made too many people mad because She's still playing the game. They're not mad with her. Mm-mm. She helped manufacture it because of her imagery. She says the Creole girl, the hood rat from around the way. So she's put that agenda in place. So they will. There's been a lot of money spent on her, so they're not hardly mad at her. Except for that formation at the Super Bowl. That's the only time I heard white folks kind of go, "Oh, I didn't know she was black," type of thing. Other than that, they're not tripping on her. She's accessible. He ain't got no money to buy no football team, and all he was gonna do is be a token. And Magic doesn't have much say with the Washington team. He's just a minority owner. They use these cats. See, it's just like it's a pyramid where you go to the table, and yes, they might let you buy something, but they're not letting you in. That's not how it works. And NFL owners got to say about it. You got to have about roughly a bill to give up. He ain't got no bill to give up. Probably could give about 500 million, which is a lot, but he's buying into the club. But these going rates for this buying teams today is like 3 or 4 bill. You'd have to put 3 or 4 heads together, which they could. If we were dealing with some black love out there, yeah, it's not gonna happen. He wasn't fake nice to call, and he sat there and said, "We're past kneeling." I have nothing, no use for Jay Z at all. I always thought he was overrated entertainer. So when he said that about Kaepernick, I know he was a sellout. Never got no love for me, and I wasn't that big on his rapping. No way. I thought Nas dusted him off, but so basically, if Jay Z took the money, his liquid money out, he might be able to put half on a team, but it would wipe him clean. He's not being disrespected. He has to come off the bench. He's lost his legs. I love Clay. Listen, I was a Clay fan. And I'm gonna tell you something before these cats been getting that Oprah, you get 70, you get 70. He was the dude that I thought would have been either getting at Kobe's 81 or close to Wilt's 100 because he could get hot like that. He's not that dude no more. He been hurt. He been banged up. He had enough in him when they won the ring 2 years ago, but he's clearly lost a step or two. He's clearly not the same. His movement, his motion is shot almost. Yes, he can give you some points out. And like in a Manu Ginobili where he'd be effective. He wouldn't help none of those teams at this stage because the Heat need a superstar. He gonna have to come in off the bench and play. They got Kevin Love. I mean, Clay's better than Kevin Love, but is he really much better at this stage? I don't know. Yeah, and then if he play with the Lakers, they got guys that rotate. They wouldn't need him per se. He'd have to be more effective, not the same. The Bucks need some defense. If that Clay came back, they take that. Yeah, and he's had bad injuries too. So that's the thing. He had two, that took him out for 2 or 3 years. So I mean, when you consider everything involved, and he's getting older. That's the things that's right there. You know, I mean, don't get it twisted. He could still have a night or two where he can light it up, but you're asking him to be something that he just doesn't have in the regions now. That's just not gonna happen. Only if it was feasible. And I think the only way that would happen is if LeBron left. I don't think he would go there with LeBron. I don't. And it would have to be feasible enough where they made a move where, Lakers have to be willing to throw somebody else to bring him on. I don't know. I don't know. I just think that he would have to go on his own as a free agent. But I don't think I can't see him really playing nowhere else. I mean, he fits Golden State. He just got old. That's all. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's no crime against it. And let's act like he ain't a Hall of Famer. Let's not act like he wasn't instrumental. He's part of the Splash Brothers. It's just that he got long and the time caught up. You gotta remember something. He been to six finals and he went through all that. That took a grind out of him. I mean, there's a lot. So well, I know some people have gotten it misconstrued. I believe that got more to do with Draymond Green. He might be hurt, but do I look at it as necessarily a backstab? No, because Clay wanted maximum money. And see, Braun's only gonna play about a year or two. Clay's acting like he wants a 3, 4 year deal. Okay. He's not worth 3 or 4 years. He's a year-to-year situation. Say what you want and come at LeBron all you want. But one thing about his contracts, they structured where they balance him an option. You would rather have a cat that would sign a 1-2 than try to get a 3-4. Clay doesn't have a 3-4 in him. He's a year-to-year situation. So, and this is the thing. They paid him, but he wanted max money. I'm sure you heard that coming into next year, that's what he was banking on because he came out last year and said, I want the big deal. Well, he ain't big deal money no more. Body is shot. Oh, yeah, he can get big deal money if he goes to Detroit, Toronto. Um, that's his options. No one is going to pay him top dollar at this stage and juncture. No more than a year. If they get a year out of him, yeah. And then with an option for the second. But he can't do those kind of contracts no more. That's the reason why if Steph did, and I can't hold that against Steph, but I do believe this is the Draymond ploy. It's got more to do with Draymond. I don't know Steph how he feels about Braun like that, but Braun, if you're looking at who could give you more right now, Braun could with the right situation. But I don't think Steph wants to let him go. But Steph only does have to say, but they're not going to pay Clay more than a year-to-year pace. Probably give him a 1 year and a 1 year option. And hopefully that he'll retire by the time he's 37, 38. We've already talked about KD enough. I mean, I don't really talk about him like that. I know how great he is as a talent, and I know what he does, but he's not an alpha, okay? And people who uh, want to put KD over Steph, for instance, miss the point. You gotta step to sometimes you gotta step up for what you do. KD is the go along low key dude who doesn't really initiate talking trash and playing the dozens. But that's what Draymond gets thrives off of. He gets guys' heads. He gets to do that. So yeah, I feel that way. But that's one of the reasons why KD's not my top 10 ever too. And he acts like he wants, he wants to be the elitist of his talents, but he's got to also understand you have to lead by example with your team. And, you know, I'm just saying. So, and that's the one. Now, if you want to know, okay, tonight you can ask me what I got against guys that I support. Let me say this. What that means is this. You want to know the one pet peeve I got against Steph Curry is Draymond Green. I can't stand for the life of me how he just lets that cat roll and don't get him off the team or set him straight or speak his mind. So that I have pet peeves by everybody that I like. So just in case you think I be all biased against Steph, no, that infuriates me the most with him. Well, I don't know all about his family. I'm just going by him. Um, you know, I just go by Katie. I don't really get into his family. His mother seems like a cool woman. I got respect for her, But this thing with Draymond is ridiculous. The turn it on, turn it off thing in the regular season, like he's that great of a player that he can do that. Now I know the NBA is long, and I know that injuries and you pace yourself and you get good. But he always kind of got this facade like, oh, I'll just get hot in the postseason and cook. And he can be very peculiar. And he's having what we call a good season. I mean, his stats are nice, but it's not leadership. It's not like I feel like he can take off and go crazy. It's not D Wade-ish. And so sometimes with that attitude, just kind of feel like he's kind of just halfway pushing the car. He's kind of going through the motions. And that is a pet peeve concern for me. Same thing with Josh Allen. They act like they didn't won Super Bowls. They ain't got nothing to worry about. They play a scrub team and they downplay. And then he decides to turn it on. I'm like, you gotta approach it like you're trying to win every game. That's what Michael Jordan did. That's what Patrick Mahomes. That's why it separates, pretenders from contenders. Contenders from pretenders. That's the thing. Gotta want it. And that's the knock. Now, Josh Allen to me is better at his skills than Butler. But Butler's been further than Josh Allen. But neither one of them set it in motion to start. Clemens, I think that good old boy try to intimidate thing was kind of like a thing that he felt, and he didn't really, he carried that kind of attitude with him. I got it. But the whole thing with Piazza and trying to stare him down like they're the Wild Wild West, like he Clint Eastwood, was like a bit much. And he has a tendency to be in that good old boy mode as part of him. But when he started to have those other pitches and those other things, he didn't need to try to intimidate nobody more because he became a all around strong, well rounded pitcher. Mahomes, my biggest thing with him is sometimes he get cutesy with trying to um when he's necessarily taking sacks or just the kind of way he tries to weaves around with stuff, and sometimes it takes him a while to kind of get it going, his groove. He's a mystery like that because it's like he's like a dual cat who kind of goes feel you out, and the next thing you know he goes crazy. Be scary when he's all the way the same. But sometimes that is on him how he takes those sacks and how he kind of just gets frustrated how he does about stuff. But yeah, he's the same dude who can throw the ball on the needle. And he can, sometimes he does a little bit taking too much of stuff. Okay, Jeter. Um, I think the biggest thing I had with him, I think, is that the A-Rod thing, he kind of downplayed it, but he is aware of the competition from within. It's like you have to be aware that that's your boy. There was a rivalry. So trying to downplay it was not cool. Russell Wilson, all golly gee, oh gosh shucks, he never got mad about that Super Bowl. He never said, I wish I hadn't have thrown that ball, should have gave it to Marshawn. That's the problem I have with Russell. And Russell is still kind of like going on about this mindset. So it's what has kind of hindered him, you know. And it feels like a facade. Peyton Manning, um, it's like when he had to, the pet peeve is that he bought into some of his hype, and he was great on cadences and stuff like that. But I think that the thing is that he had to win ugly to win. Both his Super Bowl wins were ugly. And he needed to tell the truth about that because everything wasn't these stats that were so. The Jordan pet peeve was that he was always in the third person and he basically was arrogant and smug and he turned off people and he didn't really acknowledge that about their feelings. But that's what so many successful people do. And that's one of the things that made him great, but also made him cutthroat. So it just was one of those things that, and I think that he should acknowledge Zeke. He should acknowledge Barkley. Because it's coming from about basketball where you're talking about it. So some things, he'd be a bit more in his feelings. Shaq. I just think that his attitude towards the regular season kind of weighed things down. Um, I'm not one of those people that says, had he gotten in shape, done this and that, all that. He had a great career. Who wouldn't want to have Shaq's career for the most part? Who wouldn't? But I think that he did get petty, got in his feelings. I understand the big man having a problem with the guards and stuff because he didn't get treated like he should. But I think some of his problems is because he just didn't take it. Once he got his first ring, he kind of coasted and he tended to have, he had to be motivated by things that should have been there. But I'm not saying take anything from his success. What he accomplished is great. I just think that he looked for things to be petty on, which he still does. He gets petty with some of his takes and stuff, which I think, you know, if just because you won and you're great and all that doesn't mean that everyone don't have an opinion about it. You know, it just gotta be cool. Zeke, you could say him riding Jordan, but I don't have a problem with him speaking out about what he should have been accomplished and having the crossover appeal about it. I think the thing is that he's beating in the ground where, that I still think he's one of the greatest players ever, and I think that he has been robbed, but I think that sometimes he uses that is kind of shortchanges how important, impactful he was. And I think that people do need to know how important he is, but at the same time, don't need to keep hearing about his disdain for Jordan, you know, because, um, you know, he was a great player. Bird Magic and them and Jordan just happen to be better. But he has his place though, and I think it's hurt against him. Phil Jackson's my pet peeve is his quotes which come off racist, where he said about Iverson and the clothing and certain things he says in a way, called Braun a posse crew and stuff. It's his backhanded bite. And he always had this smugness about him, you know. So on one hand, he's Mr. Zen, Mr. Hippie, free love, smoke joints. But the other hand, he's got that that redneck vibe. Kind of got me a little concerned. Um, Larry Bird was cocky as all get out, talk trash, fire you up. Um, I basically think that, he's one of those guys that you'll either warm up to or you won't, you know, you know. But not a lot to really knock. Duncan, my pet peeve, mainly the only thing with Duncan is that sometimes he downplayed who he was going against. And he got into that sympathetic mode where he's gonna cry and then he bust your behind, you know. But I like the way he played the game. For the most part, I don't really have too much. He was a loner, but he was very much a shark. Don't get it twisted. He would bite your behind if you know. Olajuwon, I think, was feisty with folks. Some things worked, some didn't. It worked out in Houston just enough to get him where he got. If it hadn't happened, it would have been interesting if he had gotten traded sooner to a legit contending team. Um, he was athletic freak, but I think that um, he had to have known that what was going on. There was a lot of miscommunication. Sometimes he didn't articulate himself what he wanted. He was very fortunate things worked out. Bonds, I don't really have too much pet peeve. Bonds pretty much was what he was. I know some people are gonna have issue with his size, or they'll say this and that. He was a Hall of Famer, regardless of how you looked at it. Um, he was arrogant, but he was a great player. He let it be known how he felt. He knew the game too, so it's a lot of there. So I'm not gonna really come up and knock that too much, but that was part of that. Larry Brown, the coach, he could talk the talk, and he could talk coaches talk, but then he was talking through you too. So sometimes he'd be talking through your head. I watched how he got down, and there were certain things I liked about him. He could be kind of cold though. I thought he rode Iverson a bit much. I understood why he was doing, but certain things became a bit heavy, you know, because he didn't have the wheels there. And that's the problem I have with a coach that's trying to emphasize. And before anyone says yes, Iverson was more talented than Chauncey Billups and them, but they had a better team structure. That's why he was able to beat the Lakers. You know, um, he doesn't beat the Lakers in Detroit if those five guys don't play cohesively together. And that's why they lost to the Spurs the next year. They got a little high on the hog, and it was a close series. Whereas against LA, once you pretty much let Shaq do what he wanted to do and you stopped everybody else. So that's what happened. Because Pat's like Gordon Greco. If you ever watch Wall Street, he's the Godfather. He's the Don. He's the dude who comes with the smoke and mirrors, and then he wants to roll his arms up and get you. But he sells you on this facade. He can be he can be many faces. He can be direct. He can be blunt. Sometimes he could be, but he's always looking for. He's like the dude who wants the most smoke in this car, but yet he'll work on the engine. And sometimes you can't tell which side of him you're coming down with Riley with that. So he can be cold and he can definitely instigate and try to get underneath your skin. Cuts both ways. I already told you with Steph is the Draymond thing more than anything. Um, I just think that if you're the leader of a team and a situation, you have to hold yourself as such. And I think that that's one of the things that is his shortcomings. You know, I mean, I hold him in high regards as a player because I didn't seen the guy before my eyes change the course of basketball. He's one of the 10 greatest players ever. But the whole thing with Draymond has got to cease to exist. And I can't clap for that because that nonsense is not a good look, you know. And what you tolerate and what you put up with, unless there's some other forces contributing to it. The NBA wants Draymond Green to be there. And he's in the I Spy role because he talks back to LeBron. So it's tricky. Patrick Ewing wasn't wasn't that dude. I mean, and pet peeve was he just came up short. He just didn't finish, as a player. That was the knock, you know. He had the mental, he had the components, but he just didn't finish. And that's one of the reasons why we kind of are like, shrug shoulders where he's concerned. I know I am. When you're in New York, you got to finish it up. So that's kind of how I look at him. You know, Ewan could have been way better. I mean, he was great in college. And I don't want to hear no one say, well, Jordan got in the way. There's things that he could have done with personnel. And I remember the 94 finals. I mean, Starks shot all the ball because Ewan didn't because Riley had pretty much had thrown the towel in. Couldn't get him to beat Olajuwon. So, the Montana thing, I think because like he was kind of like Kareem, he had to get himself bulked up because he took a lot of necessary shots. Sometimes not. When they played the Giants, they were real physical with him. And I think that he was a choreographed quarterback, meaning like if he moved, he could move a bit. But he didn't really fight them when Steve Young was being hounded, hyped up, and I thought that was kind of disappointing. He should have retired a 49er quarterback. I'm sorry. He should never gone and left them. Jimmy Johnson was arrogant and smug, and it carried over. And he, with the whole thing with Dallas, he tried that mess in Miami, and it didn't work. Um, he's one of those guys. He has to have the right place, right situation to bring the best of him. And he was definitely a star favorable head coach with certain situations. It just, again, you know, um, it didn't work in Miami. And he comes across very like a smokescreen oil car salesman, knowing that you ran Landry and you're gonna try to run Shootout, and how else were you gonna try to run out? I kind of take exception to that. I'm not taking nothing from him his greatness as a coach because he did the thing, but Dan Marino, I think that being a gunner, um, pretty much doing the same thing worked against him to me. Aaron Rodgers just didn't pet peeve. He blamed everybody. Wasn't as detailed and informed, and his shortcomings ain't on everybody. Sometimes you just gotta look at the man in the mirror. That's the best way I can describe him. I'm sure a Packer fan can relate to that with him. He's mentally frustrating because his arrogance and his smugness, He got point fingers. I'm like, look, man, you throw bad picks, you play horrible. You got to blame everybody. You got always got some complaint. It gets tiring with him. McNabb just wasn't mentally focused. That was a pet peeve, especially in that Super Bowl. He throws haymakers up for T.O. They might win that Super Bowl. He just doesn't change his cadence and he stays in the same focus. And, you know, Bruce Smith, I think, again, sometimes in different situations, just a matter of bringing it, bringing it, that willpower. Um, but he's a good dude, and he was one of the greatest players ever, and he's one of my top 5 greatest Bills players. But I do think in some of them situations, he just didn't bring it or call for it, you know. So that's some good list though, some good people. Yeah, some of my pet peeves has got something to do with how they play or how they formulate with what they're in their circumstances, you know. There's a very few that I didn't have much of an issue with. I think Brady not he's a politician, so he never comes out and says what he really thinks about Belichick, and so that's a pet peeve of mine. I know good and well that they was more volatile than he'll ever lead on, and I know good and well he knows about the gates and all that stuff too. That's not taking anything from him, but in some ways he's had to hold the keys and be an accessory to what Belichick did. And I just wish he would come out and say, "Yeah, I showed him what I could do without him. I did it with Bruce Arians." Just saying the facts. It's just the facts. Bill Cowher, I think sometimes he got conservative, and I think kind of held Pittsburgh back in some forms because I think if he had a little bit more snap to it, I think you'd have gotten more results. I think that was kind of the thing. Randy Moss is just that he's one of the greatest receivers ever. He's probably my top 2 or 3 ever. Okay, but this is going to be contradictory and explosive. He had bum attitude. He had bum attitude. There's a handful, a couple people who think he's the greatest, and I think he told that and said that mess to Jerry Rice that he was greater. If we go by the footwork like a ballet dancer, yeah. But if we go by the totality of him kind of being half-hearted and pouting and acting nonchalant and just just kind of shrug, what he showed me in '07 with Brady at his best. Thank you. He could have been almost a tie with Jerry Rice, because if he wins a ring or two, and then you consider his explosiveness and the way. When I talk about this guy, if he had Rice's attitude for detail and T.O.'s mindset, ain't nothing gonna stop me, he would have been the greatest. And see, I know I'm going to upset some Megatron fans. Megatron ain't in the same atmosphere as Randy Moss, because Moss could do that in his sleep, stat pad and put up numbers. His was about the next level. Can you generate to win? And he was in great situations in Minnesota with Culpepper and Randall Cobb, and then things just didn't jump off. I still remember that Thanksgiving game against Dallas where he scored all those touchdowns, and Dave Wannstedt was hating, and they were hating on him, and he beat they behind. Footwork, incredible, impeccable. Should have been, should have been strong consideration for the GOAT. Now he might be second, third, fourth, fifth, depending on who you ask. But it's a big difference. He could have really been that guy. Because to me, on a skill standpoint of view, he ain't that far from Rice. But his mindset was never like that. So that's why, you know, and that's just the fact. So yeah. He's probably the first person that you've heard me of all the names you mentioned that I got the most explosive with. Because I thought a lot about Randy Moss. I remember Outkast did that song, "It's a Whole World," and they mentioned move the ball like Randy Moss. They even used him in a quote. He was he, you know, but that's one of my pet peeves with him. hmm You could have made the case in the last 20 years that he could have been the greatest receiver and Michael Vick could have been the greatest quarterback. And if Adrian Peterson stayed consistent, or you got some people that have had some situations I've seen in the last 20 years, but again, but I'm just sticking to Moss right now. That's what makes him so frustrating. So if the Randy Moss Boo Birds want to come at me, feel free. The only time you really your pet peeves with athletes is when you see something that they do and there's things that you don't like that you notice. To be honest with you, music artists are easiest ones to do than athletes because you can pick on their flaws. Um, Athletes, if they usually are as great as they are, or something, unless it's just something centralized. But Moss is an exception because he could have been really that great. He really could have been. And I saw, seeing him with Brady. Oh yeah. Oh boy. That's what I'm talking about. Jerry Rice had done that for years, and he built that up with Montana and Rice. But Moss, that 1 year, whoa. So anyway, okay. So feel free to fire away. It's getting good. This is really good tonight. Well, they always good. I mean, we did. Good. Take that out. I'm looking forward to more names, and it don't even matter if it's in sports, music, politics. And like I said, even my favorites, nobody's off limits because, you know, before anybody asks me, as much as I love D Wade and whatnot, my thing about D Wade is because he deferred so much and that I think the financial aspect of what happened in Miami, I think the fact that he didn't get paid like he's supposed to and he took some stuff exception, and I think it kind of short sighted and made him kind of hurt. That's one thing I would say with D Wade. He sacrificed a lot for LeBron. And I think that is kind of carried over, you know. And so I was wondering why he didn't speak out and didn't, say, yo, I should have been taken care of. And, just a lot of stuff that he didn't do with that. That's why going to Chicago and Cleveland was like a bad dream. Like, come on, don't do that. You are the greatest Miami Heat player. You should have been ran out because you felt you were shortchanged and because you allowed your buddy to run roughshod. That's one of my pet peeves with D Wade. Hmm. I never cared for that part. Scottie Pippen. I'm just throwing names out there so you can comment if you want to. My Scottie Pippen one is simple. How dare you act like you was great as Michael Jordan? How dare you sell this notion that trying to say he was a bum or something? He just doing this. The Bulls stunk when he got there. They were a abysmal team. He could score. He did need help, and you came through. But the pieces and places had to be there. Now, but let's not act like you could have done anything without him there, because you had that one good year without him, but you faded the next year when the year he came back. So let's not act like, and you had your chance in Portland. That's why I'm always gonna hold against Scottie Pippen more than anything. All bets are I will forgive you for the Houston run with Barkley and them because it was too old. I'll give you that. But you got to Portland, you had your chance to beat your old coach. You had the chance to ward off Shaquille O'Neal's prime peak dominance and to keep the new upstart Kobe Bryant in check and a 15-point lead in LA. But in the sweetest revenge, you win that series. Then you go on and play Indiana for the chip. You beat Larry Bird, you beat Reggie Miller. We're talking about you in a different capacity. We're not now. So that's what's up. Oh, I didn't see that. See, a lot of them just came up. Okay. Sorry, because this thing had disappeared. So let me address it because I had lost it. Okay. Let me go over these real quick. And I'm gonna get back to you, Ted, if you can hear me. Michael Jordan. Like I said before, he could turn off people. That was one of the things. He could turn people off. And he would alienate. And that arrogance and sometimes that third person mess would get you. Reggie Miller was real petty, push off, the tactics that he did. He's the reason why they don't let the kick no more. I think he could have gotten more out of his teammates. I think there was a disconnect there. Dion tried to fire people up. Sometimes baseball, he was showing more of that side where he wasn't get along with certain attitudes he took, and he had a chip on his shoulder. I understood. He fought it. The NFL, he was kind of like, see, when his skill set went down when he was with Baltimore, Washington, he had to get some humbleness in him, and that was tough to watch because even though he was humble, he was a lot of a showboat, and a lot of stuff kind of worked. So my pet peeve with him would probably be how he didn't prepare for that other side, which came pretty quick. Just being honest, as great as he was. Well, Brett Favre was just a slinger, and I think that he didn't always prepare for his situations. And I think he was a one trick pony that was trying to ride that. I do. Moon, I think that they didn't really go to management as far as keeping the ball running more, getting the right pieces, you know. Got to have, because I mean, on offense, his receivers were, but I think running, I think there were certain things that he just didn't defense, and he didn't voice it for different reasons. Michael Vick was just that he didn't voice to have a receiver, and he kind of got smug once he got paid and got comfortable. And it's kind of like you were happy with what you had, but you didn't really challenge it. Kelsey, um, I can't really find too much with Kelsey because he doesn't really, he's trying the Hollywood thing and all that, but I can't really say I find anything, wrong with him. Can't say I do. Can't really say I do. Kelsey doesn't really offend me enough, like what I can say, because he's actually enhanced his game. He comes back ready to play. AB is simple. I mean, his pet peeve is just his attitude because it's like, yo, you're a Hall of Fame player and you already outwore your welcome. You should be a first ballot Hall of Fame player. And you stunted your growth. Big Ben, blaming other people, short sighted. And he had some stinkers of Super Bowls. He got fortunate. He should count his lucky stars. And he kind of underachieved. He threw some bad picks in some postseason games. So that's stuff that he need to hold accountable for that he just came up short. And he played about 2, 3 years too long too. Sean McVay, it's simple because he thinks he's where Shanahan is trying to go. He's got the ring and he's got his team up and he gets the receivers, but then he kind of acts like he's halfway out the door. Doesn't reinvent the wheel with keeping his quarterback, keeping this thing flowing, and so his thing tends to fall off. That's what my problem with him because he's where Shanahan wishes he was. He got the ring, he did it, but he kind of, you thinking, okay, is he going to retire? What's he doing? And he kind of leaves you dangling. I think Dirk not asking for more of what he had in Dallas, especially not running the team back after he won. He didn't hold Cuban accountable, and I do wonder about that. And I definitely that's one of those problems. Nash's biggest problem is that he, you know, again, not holding teammates accountable, not learning how to play half court basketball, being strictly a one sided thing. And my pet peeve is that it's not holding your own team together. You're the leader, you know. And they did not get any better. He became a great talent later in his career, but he worked hard in movement, but he didn't get that out of his team. And so that's a peeve of mine that you have to get the most out. Melo was just kind of like bummy, should have been better, should have been a precursor to Durant because I think this guy should have had a ring or two. Should have, if he was going to cherry pick his career, he could have gone to Chicago, Memphis, or somewhere and had a chance to be a contender as opposed to just modeling. Because after he left Denver, he was just modeling in New York. He wasn't trying to win. And all he's done is carry on with other teams. And you then forgot the greatness of his talent because it's took a detour because he wanted to model as opposed to play ball. And that's the sad part. That guy should have been one of the way up there. Um, I think not demanding more was quarterback. I think not demanding the top flight. And we lost him. We lost him 3 or 4 years. We want him to play more. McGuire basically explain. You're a great home run hitter, but explain your strengths. We want to hear the greatness of you. Because we want to believe that the other aspects of your game. I know you're a great home run hitter, and you did win rings. We want to hear you come correct about someone say the steroids how you want to think. I just think that it comes about coming correct with all the sides of the game. Griffey Jr. just being what I call passive and happy, which always was a pet peeve because, he was catered to and he was a great talent, make no mistake about it. But the Cincinnati White Sox thing, come on now. You want to go home and, just one of those guys that you wish he'd have had more fire to want to win a ring and be more demanding because his father was, just saying. And Griffey Jr. is one of the 10 greatest players I ever saw, but it's a loss there. Karl Malone, I just think that he know how physical he played and he tried to act like he didn't. Certain things he tried to downplay. And he definitely went after certain people and he almost like he couldn't understand why they were coming at him. So just admit you wanted to rumble it up. Don't lie. Jason Kidd, I think the discipline, because I think had he been more consistent early in his career the way he was with the Nets and winning in Dallas, maturation had to kick in. So a pet peeve of mine was that he just wasn't as focused as his talent level. Because this is a guy that when he was at his best, he didn't buckle down early. Neek not asking for more in Atlanta. And they did get to the Eastern Conference thing, but not getting enough out of it. Thought he wanted more out of it. Mm, can't really say too much for Rivera. You know, I might not agree with him politically, but I can't say much. He was pretty solid for what he was. Randy Johnson, same thing as a pitcher. You only as good as what you got in front of you. When he went to Houston, he showcased that. He went to Arizona, he got the ring, and he probably played about 5, 6 years too long, but uh, no, nothing really to say because he got it out of his system. When he got the ring in Arizona, he came up big. So nothing I can say with that. Not really much. Dr. J, um, very philosophical, no matter where he's at, and I respect that. Um, I do wonder if he only pet peeve is I think does he think the AB was better than the NBA and should he be considered one of the 10 greatest players ever? And I might do a video about that because I definitely think he's been disrespected. And I do think that they've taken him for granted how important his role was and the ABA's role to counter the NBA because they needed him. So that in itself is a compelling argument. Ricky, who forget you, Henderson, one of my favorite players ever. Mm, I ain't got nothing really bad to say about Ricky. Nothing bad to say because Ricky made it work. I mean, he played for a long time with different situations, but he made it work. I mean, I thought when he said, "I am now the greatest stolen base" when he broke Lou Brock's record, I thought that was a bit, arrogant, but he came up clutch. Ricky's one of those guys. He was kind of like a Dennis Rodman type. If you had him on your team, you're gonna win because Ricky was gonna do whatever it took. Ricky made himself into he worked hard. So I got nothing to really say because Ricky covered the bases. Pretty straightforward cat. Alex Rodriguez, just his arrogance and his smugness, which was like he didn't have a sense of understanding about the concept of team. And that's one of the things that worked against him. And he was always trying to be first and foremost, and he hurt himself because I do think that worked against him in terms of where he would rank all time. Like I said, one of the most talented players you ever gonna see, top 5 or 10 talent. But some of his choices and decisions was based on him as opposed to we, and it showed. And he figured out what he got with the Yankees, but it's near the end of his career. So Pujols was the biggest problem is that he left St. Louis in the first place. Going to the Angels didn't do nothing for his career. As a matter of fact, it took him from a potentially made man, because he's going to be great regardless, but it made potentially made man into just good. So Sosa, the biggest thing is not addressing, all the mechanics about his talents. I mean, he could hit, so I'm not even disputing that, but he didn't work on his outfield game. That's a pet peeve of mine. He was horrible on the outfield. I've seen some bad pops back there. Verlander would have been in that Aaron Rodgers thing had he not gone to Houston and been successful. And I would just thought him in Detroit. But he redeemed himself where I really don't have anything, no pet peeve where he's concerned. Um, Nothing but Dusty because he won in Houston. And that pretty much sealed it up. And when I say it like that, of course, he would have been. You could have held the Bartman thing in Chicago because Sosa and them never got back, and then of course with Bonds and them, and he came, but he got it done in Houston. So there was no pet peeve. He finished it up. Got nothing to say against that man. That man's he sealed the deal. Sometimes winning does cure all the ailments. Depends on who we talking about. I didn't think he wanted it bad enough. I thought that he was looking for ways out, and my knock against pet peeve was just him not really pushing it with Sacramento. I just never thought he was the leader. Talented dude, and should have been in the greats argument. He ain't. And I loved him in Michigan. Got great hands, could score stuff, but I just don't think he finished. He was a guy that just didn't finish for me. So that's my pet peeve. Grant Hill was mainly injuries, and I think being perceived as soft coming out of Duke, but he definitely, and he had opportunity to play with Phil Jackson in LA, and he turned it down. Would have liked to seen him win a better situation because I think he deprived himself of a better situation. I really do. And like I said, injuries slowed him down, but it's a thing. MB always talking about the process. He's just too much of a seller. He's like he wants to be loved and coughed at every level. Like, look, man, you got to go get that chip. Anything less than a chip now, and you just stat padding. You're headed towards Dame Lillard, James Hardenville. That's where you're headed. You know. So if you think you belong with Jokic, bring it. If you don't, sit your butt down and keep stat padding. But that's the problem I have with him. So, you know, people get tired of hearing you say the same old song, and you're not going nowhere with it. I don't think Giannis is too nice. I'm gonna address Giannis back. I'm gonna go backwards to forwards. I don't think Giannis is too nice. I think the problem with Giannis is that he ain't nice enough because he don't really share. He is limiting Lopez. He knows Middleton hits the corner shot, and they've deferred to him by bringing Dame in. And I think that he had what got him to being a great player. He worked his butt off. He has to have that in continued concert with his teammates. So I think he need to be nicer to understand that hey, I need the right parts around me. That's not that's where he needs to be nicer. They've deferred to him and let him walk through that wall, and he gets his opportunities, but sometimes he gets too greedy for his own good. Then he runs up missing free throws or trying to shoot the three. Simplify your game. You need to be nicer. So I don't think he's been nice enough because I think that he was nicer he'd have never let Drew Holiday go. That's my take. Luka's problem is that coming in out of shape sometime and stats up nicely, but he's got to get others involved. Can't do it by himself. No one does. So until he learns how to fall back off his ego a bit, maybe by average about 2 or 3 points less, throw more assists, get the rebounds, get the steals, maybe a block or two, he's gonna have this problem. He gonna have that problem. He's gonna end up being a big old stat pad unless he can figure it out and get that team better. That's what you gotta do. Because it's got about getting better now. Tyler Heroes because he thinks he's better than what he is. And I understand that logic when you're trying to hype yourself up, soup yourself up. But, the problem that he runs into is that he's not consistent. And there's a reason why they consider trade rumors or, you know, got to have an attitude where you're going to be healthy and you're going to have to bring it in the things you're going to have to do. So that's my take on him. But yeah, I don't think Giannis is nice enough. I think Giannis needs to be nicer. Under Griffin wasn't the problem at the coach. You start getting pampered and sprayed, and you're just not utilizing your squad properly. Imagery wise, Slim Shady, but he's more Vanilla Ice though. I mean, he's more show. He think he could be Slim Shady. I don't know. I don't know. I like it when he's playing good and when he's hitting consistency, but again, there's things that he does. Delusions be getting the best of him. He's good. But I mean, if he was using Eminem as a role model, then he has to find a way to try to bet himself where he creates something that he can be mentioned in the same likes with Jason Tatum or something. He wants to be mentioned like that, so he has to be consistent. That he's really all about Dame. Duh. I could have said Milwaukee. You asked me, oh, why Miami? I said, no, I don't want him. I seen him in Portland. I lived in the Northwest. I saw how he played. Logo threes and always flicking on his wrist all the time and trying to diss Shaq on battle and producing music. He ain't playing the real lab. He's busy being a merch. He ain't playing no team ball. He made a couple of shots in the postseasons, got around the two, waved off Paul George, talked trash. Didn't do nothing. Been to one Western Conference Finals. For as long as he's been around and his impact and all that, what's he got to show for it? He's getting exposed now. He looked like a fraud now. He looks like a never was. Yes, so-called 75 greatest player ever looks like a never was. Because he's stinking it up and he's getting exposed for being a fraud. And I said it. Oh, I got hot tonight because of Randy Moss and now Dame you mentioned. But that's how I feel about Dame. The pet peeve is that he don't understand that he's an opportunity to win, and he's still acting like he gonna play hero ball. And he looked ironic. You mentioned Tyler Hero, and that's the problem. You're playing with one of the best players in the game today, in the top two, because Giannis and Jokic you can debate, and Giannis, when it's all said and done, will be probably somewhere between 14 and 24 greatest player ever, especially when he never played no defense. And he only is a one-trick pony. It's not like he flirts with triple doubles. It's not like he gets you rebounds and steals and blocks, takes flops. He goes and hides in the middle of the circle. And he's just not consistent. So, but he's not my problem. And you ask why I didn't want him. You seeing why. I don't think I have to ever be asked again about why he didn't get Dame Lillard and why Pat Riley closed that checkbook up. Nobody. Because you got to have two alpha dogs. You gotta have one alpha that cover his behind on offense and one on defense. You sound like two raw. This is what you what have you guys ain't seen? When he was in Portland, okay, let's go back 10 years ago, shall we? He hit that game winner in the first round against Houston. That they took Harden out. Okay. The next round they played against the Spurs. Tony Parker treated him like a stepbrother, beat the dog lights out of him. Waxed they behind. Okay, then you fast forward to another year, he beat the Clippers and he weighed off Paul George. Then he got his butt waxed in the second round. Okay, I forgot who it was. Then we get to 2019, the one year he gets to the Western Conference Finals. And Steph wasn't even really effective in that. It was Draymond Green. Draymond was going coast to coast. He didn't do he blew fourth quarters, and that was it. That's the last time I heard from Dame. Bubble, he wins one game against the Lakers, gets knocked out. Then he became a first round casualty. Then it became a lottery team, just stat padding. Superstar to who? To who? Not to me. I did a video where he scored his 70 points. And yes, I admit I did a video because he can score, because he's fun to watch score. But I never looked at him as some superstar. I never looked at him as some turning point guy. Tell you all the time, you got to have two guys to cover his behind. He can't do it with he's showing you what he is with Giannis. The plan was to have Giannis and play defense like with Drew Holiday and then to score a bunch of points. If he isn't hot in scoring points, there is nothing there. He don't play no defense, and he's not gonna give you assists. He's not gonna give you steals. He ain't gonna give you rebounds, block shots. He don't fill stat sheets up. So if he ain't shooting that logo three or pounding on his wrist like Dame time, there really ain't much to him. So as Public Enemy used to say, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. I don't know where he's a superstar at. And I sure as heck ain't got him as one of the 75 greatest players. I don't. There's a few cats I would come up before I come up with him. And you say the top 125, yeah. Well, that's not saying much. I mean, they got ISO. Miami usually matches well against Milwaukee. So I can't really go by that because we usually do. Don't ask me why. I think that if Bam can neutralize Giannis as much as you can, the reason why we beat him last year in the playoffs because he missed all them free throws. He stunk at the line. Giannis sat there and shot 50 free throws and missed about 41 of them. And they still had a chance, but they had no other help. And they don't play no defense the same. Their defense, that was their bread and butter. Tyler, he ain't gonna, not in the big picture, maybe for a game or so. You ask anybody career wise, Tyler Hero's not in the same universe as Dame. Dame is considered a better player because Tyler Hero ain't never led a team. Dame has. So basically, you're comparing a guy that's considered a first tier guy in Dame to a guy that's considered like a mid high second tier player in Tyler. Tyler's not considered a first tier dude. He's not better than Jimmy Butler or Bam. So I wish he was, but he ain't. Excuse me. I wish he was, but he ain't. So see, the thing is that He's kind of got scores the rest of development. Like he plays bigger than what he is, but he's not comfortable. And he's selling for like 20 and 10, which is, but he's more like 15, 16, 17. He's more like a, how do I say this? He's like, he puts me in a frame of mind kind of like a Alonzo. And he can be intense, but he's undersized, but he plays with a heavy, heavy hard way he play. But his skills, I think, developing an outside shot, developing a sky hook, post move. It's just like one of those guys that, yeah, yeah. One of those guys that they had a superstar, like a guy who could facilitate on the perimeter with him and Butler, then you get your wish. I would get my wish. You need a cat. Back in the day, you would have needed Nash type, a Steve Nash, Isaiah Thomas type, a guy that's a slash guard who can rock on the perimeter, or kid, someone get that rock there and then he can post and spin and hook. That's what he's missing. That's what Bam is missing. So, gotta have a certain type of guard that can facilitate that. So, I do like him, and I do think he, overachieves in spurts, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. See, that's what they're missing. You got you a I'll say this. If Chris Paul the third, CP3 was legit, like if he was legit and he wasn't so buttery fingers in the postseason, you had him, that would be, but he's just gone. He done now. He been past the pool date for 5 years. But take Shea. Put Shea with Miami right now and tell me we're not coming out the East the next 5 years. SGA. Put SGA with Butler and Bam and tell me we're not coming out the East. Please do. Yeah, but I'm talking about Shea. I'm talking about Shea right now. We talk about Shea from OKC. Put him with Bam and Jimmy right now. Now, now, because he would get into Jimmy Butler's lane. He could facilitate, but it would be kind of choppy. Luca needs a low post present guy. That's what'll make him better. Jokic type. He needs somebody like that. That's what they missing. They bang, he be all right. He needs a tree. He don't need to be playing on the perimeter. That's the problem now. No, I tell you, if you couldn't hit a jet ski, you get like a Shea Crest Alexander. Shea would be scary with Miami. Shea would be scary with Boston. Because Tatum and Brown could park their butt on the top, on the side, and let him do his thing. He'd be scary with Boston. If he's healthy and he motivated, but that's a lot of ifs. A lot of ifs. It's a lot of ifs. A lot of ifs. So, you know. But I already said, they could help him, but they can't help him up here. That's not the problem. It's here. He spent too much time talking in his head. He one of those cats that he's like, should I do this? Should I not? I don't care where he go. He has to get out his head. He has to get out his feelings and play ball. That's the problem with him. I don't think it's the trainers and the culture. I think anybody can help him. I just think because I'll be honest with you, Nick Nurse is a great coach for him right now. Nick Nurse is a great coach for him, but he has to take the next step, you know, and that's where the jury's out. I think that he didn't try to score more points. I think he could have been more of a scorer because people don't know how filthy he could have really been. Had he averaged like 25 points, probably about 5 more points, would have been something. And he deferred a lot, and we didn't get to see that post up more. Um, Kareem, I just think by him voicing, certain opinions, he kind of sometimes he was passive, sometimes he wasn't. So you just never knew where you stood with him, and it was kind of like chameleon like. So that could be kind of misconstrued. Bill Russell, I don't think you may have a pet peeve he didn't score a few more points, but that's about it. But I mean, the guy did the freaking thing. I mean, can't find no real argument against Bill Russell. Can't. He played at a high level, highly competitive. So not much on Bill Russell. I would not much, because again, that was before my time. But I will say just probably scoring a little bit more. But that's it. But Magic, I can definitely say I wish he had to score a little bit more for sure. And Kareem, a little more clear. Jerry West, so he got mad about the HBO show and everything like that. But I like it when he was more fiery because that's the real him. He tends to play to the camera to downplay how he really feel. So, can't really find nothing with Moses Malone. He didn't really bother. He hit them rebounds. He played a certain style. He was the way he was. So I couldn't really. I had no knocks against Moses because to come to find out he's more underrated as time goes by. You also realize he won 3 straight MVPs and he took that Rockets team and he led the Sixers and he hasn't gotten his due. Probably played too long. That probably my pet peeve. They rock too many jerseys because a guy of his magnitude and what have you shouldn't have had to be rocking all them jerseys. That's the only pet peeve I'd say. Garnett because he acted like he was better than he was. And had he had a split with Tim Duncan, we might have a different conversation, but we don't. And sometimes he overacted and was loud and boisterous and just did stuff that just didn't really. So no. Deron Williams is because he wanted to go home and he ran Jerry Sloan out of Utah. And my pet peeve will always be that running Sloan out. And then your career turned into the whatever happened to you. You went from being one of the 3 best point guards to basically being you never was. That's the sad part. Then he went to Cleveland. I want to go home to Dallas and all that crying. And we never got, he went to a milk carton. He went from being on a poster to a milk carton. There you go. I think politicking more so as a general manager than he would as a player. Um, with the Darko situation, kind of acting kind of coy about stuff. I think that's the only thing I ever had against Dumars. Liked him a lot as a player, just acted kind of coy. Kemp just not adding to his game and repertoire because he was the Rain Man, and he kind of got in love with that, and he just didn't really add more to his game. That was really my main pet peeve because I watched him in Seattle, and when he got traded and he just became Professor Clump, you forgot how great he was, and he let himself deteriorate, like he let himself go. And this guy was a beast at one time, and he just didn't have that attitude to want it. That's all. Glove, I think not adjusting to Phil Jackson when he's with the Lakers. I think sometimes still taking that Oakland attitude. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, and he still thought he was going to be like that. And you know, yeah, he did. He did because that was sad. Got all out of shape, all big and bloated. And so I was had that discussion on two Raws. They was asking about Kemp and Blake. I see he gonna be like the precursor to Blake Griffin. I said he just let himself go, and then people forgot all about him. You know, the last part of his career, you don't even care to remember. But yeah, Gary just not working on his offense in certain places, and that's the problem. Not understanding that. Mark Jackson, um, preachy. I heard about the time his wife sung the anthem and he didn't even know who she was, and he can throw some people get a little heavy handed with certain things he say. As a player, he was slow, but he was effective. He could point guard, but again, mm, it's kind of like his attitude with certain things. Well, he said that because him and Carmelo fell out. He didn't mean that. I mean, listen now. You be my guest to go get the drug testing kit for George Carl. We know that's not true. Now I got some people gonna brag up that Deadlift Shrimp was great. He wasn't, but he was good. He was a good role player, and he was a true '90s role player. And he was better than say Tony Kukoc. I'll give you that. And Deadlift had a nice J with Indiana with Seattle. Yeah, he could play. Not saying he couldn't. He wasn't no Carmelo. Okay, let me guess. He was not. He wasn't seeing Carmelo. As bad as Carmelo got with rocking jerseys, he was never better than Melo. Melo, Melo at his worst was still. They were just because Melo was a pure natural starter. Detlef wasn't. That's a big difference. You can't compare a guy who's a starting five to a guy that's in the 6 to 10 slot. Sorry, you can't. It's not even funny. Roseanne Barr, when she crouch grab, sung it, that was horrible. You got to look that up on YouTube. That's horrible. Carl Lewis, the Nets against the Bulls. Oh, see, can you see? Oh God, he hit a note that only Alicia Keys and a wounded bear could appreciate. That was the worst. That was the worst. Mo Cheeks and the white girl, but again, he was helping her out singing it, so Mo Cheeks was off. But yeah, that Carl Lewis one, oh God, I don't think my left ear recovered. That was the worst. And Roseanne Barr too. So look them two up. They neck and neck. They make the Vin Baker one look like John Legend. Those two are horrible and comical for wrong, 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 wrong reasons. I don't know how Michael Jordan didn't come out. He had no hair. Stephen A. Smith, Carl Lewis. Everything revolves around Carl Lewis, and it's a sad part because he was one of the greatest athletes I ever seen. But it was so twinky. He was a Twinkie with singing and a Twinkie with that pitch. Oh God, it was bad, bad, bad. And Stephen A. Smith's pitch was bad, bad. Yeah, those are bad, bad first pitches. And that's the sad part about when I talk about Carl Lewis because we're talking about one of the most dynamic athletes ever. But between that anthem and that pitch, bad. more Twinkie vibes, more Hostess cupcake vibes. Starburst, the Starburst gang. You know, when I do my videos and I use that's the term I use, the Starburst. Yeah, that's more the vibe I get out of him. His sister was rough. It's funny, like Carl Lewis and Reggie Miller. Not saying Reggie gave me Starburst vibes, but kind of soft, like kind of like, and uh, Cheryl was tougher, and Carl Lewis's sister was tougher too. But Carl kind of gave off Starburst vibes. So, but a great athlete though. I mean, the cat could move. You know, he was bad. Yeah. I call it Starburst, you call it Fruity Pebble vibes, but yeah, same thing, same neighborhood. You know how I have to word these things on these YouTube streets, but you know where I'm going with that. Starburst, yeah, or Lucky Charms. So magically delicious, full leaf clover. You know how the elf goes, yeah. Well, yeah. You know I have to do these codes, but yeah, yeah. But the cat could run, but that singing and that pitch, mm, especially that pitch. The wrist went down before the ball went up. That's all you need to know. That yeah, that's the best way to describe it. The wrist went down before the ball went up. Yep. Yep. I would rather he just throw the ball to the backstop or just throw it as hard as you can, but not like that. That was that was I guess after the fact. You talking about Barney the dinosaur? Yeah, and it kinda I guess he kinda cooled out too, but he was annoying as all get out. It was annoying. That's one of the most annoying things I ever encountered. I did not care for Barney. Well, iconic. So if you're an icon, you're made man because it was a household song, was a household cartoon, so made. But a bum to me, personally, like a not a bum or a scrub, but made man. I can't because if you iconic, I can't argue against the impact. It was iconic. But a scrub to me though, I thought it sucked. Bad singing and just tired of that crap. That was overrated and a bad joke, but people loved it. People loved it. People loved it. So I couldn't support it, but I like I told you it was big. All the cartoons that were successful that you know people by heart are made men like Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner, all that, because they were iconic and they were beneficiaries at the time they came out. Now, if we're in a fair world, you come out of a certain era, you're iconic. I don't look at Ren and Snippy like that, but like The Simpsons, that's a made man. Flintstones made man. Jetsons, Fat Albert in the Game, that's all made. Kid and Play and Hammer cartoons were scrubs. Okay. Bebe's Kids was good. Okay. Um, Rugrats is made man. You know. Yeah. So that's again, that's a different dynamic. So That's how I eliminate that. I don't, Popeyes are made, man. Before you ask, yeah, go into the ones that are obvious. You know, it's like Harry Potter's a made, man. I can't stand that mess, but that's made. You know, there's no ifs and buts about it. Just because it ain't for me, I'm not gonna sit there and be a hater and say it's not made. I know sometimes people, I give you what I think, but I'm gonna tell you how it is, if it's made or not too. So I'm not gonna lie because it's iconic, you know. So, but that don't mean every sequel. It don't mean everybody's like that. No, not the cartoon. He is not the cartoon. The cartoon was corny, but he is because he was merch. He from a head to toe. He was a creation, not his cartoon. Had it been off his cartoon, he he wouldn't have been where he was. Say you can be a made person and have corny stuff. It's just that you happen to be iconic. It's like Pee Wee Herman is iconic. Can't really tell you that Paul Rubens is movies or stuff. I like the TV show. Cartoon was good. But I can't sit there and tell you that the movie, but his character was well, you gotta remember something. When you do sequels, you're only gonna regurgitate what's out there. So you're entitled to feel that way. I mean, it's iconic. So again, when you're iconic, you're not a bum because you created well, they make sequels and they create a character that people identify and relate to. So that's not a bum. So and there really are no bum characters created. They usually just suck. That's the difference. Because only if they don't get the effects or something right with the costume or get something right, then you can maybe say it could have been better. That's a bum. But there are no bums in that vehicle because that's usually based on the action. So, you know. And I guess if you feel that way after watching RoboCop 3, but again, that's because but it is a sequel. You're only gonna get, it was meant to really be a greater one time. And that's what they don't get. You hit it, you stop it after the first time, it's iconic. It's never to be duplicated. All you're gonna do is repeat yourself. So that's all I gotta say about that. You know. You may not like what comes out after and you might call it downgrade, but you gotta remember that's what sequels once they get the first one. Now, I will help you. White Man Can't Jump. That's a debatable because the first one was well, it was good. I didn't think it was great, but it was very good. But the second one sucked. So Bobby Cox, I can't again as a manager, he won a ring. Can't really say anything. Maybe you could have looked pet peeve with how he went about some of his decisions in the World Series. Is you can be more anal about that. I can't really say anything behind him. That comes down to why you went out when you lost all those series that Chipper Jones was clutch and came up big. Can't really say anything about him because for the most part, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. He came up. It's just that it's a team game. Now, this is where it gets tricky because Manny, pet peeve, he clowned around a lot. And I think sometimes that worked against him, how great of a talent he was. Some of it was funny and some of it was just self indulgent. And I think it kind of worked against him in some capacity. Because make no mistake about it, he was just as important as Ortiz, if not more so. So, Mom, well, I thought he was a good old boy. And he kind of turned me off. Um, and I think that kind of works. I know where you come from and how you are, but I think that, you know, expression was kind of like not really clear. So I was kind of turned off. Cunningham's arrogance, and I think that he not understanding being a black quarterback and not, you know, and got caught up in the limelight too quick. Because I think if he'd have been more focused, more driven, I think, and he could have been seen better than he was. That's the downside to him. Shouldn't have been ran out of Philly. Shouldn't have gone on them situations. Only knock against Rice is basically he didn't fight for Montana with Young, and he that's about it. But he struck me as a go along, get along, you know. So hold on. In the kitchen. Okay. So that's my only knock with that with him. If I'm honest, my only knock. You know, but it's kind of hard to find issue. With a guy like that, because for the most part, I mean, he was a team guy, and he became great. Um, you know what? He was pretty humble dude. He told people that Joe Guerin was a better quarterback. So I don't think he ever led no. I don't think he ever falsified anything with that. I don't think he did. I really ain't got much to say about Brad because he was honest with his limitations. I think Kurt Warner may be political, but on the field, I can't say I had any problem with him. Um, he knew that I think he got humble pie with the Giants, and he got redemption with Arizona. Let's just say that. JJ Watt, I really don't feel anything that, unless someone brings to light or something, I really don't think that there was anything that I could say that you know, that he annoyed me with. You know, I think his fanboys got on my nerves trying to make him out to be maybe more than he was, but um, you know, can't say I really had anything against Watt. Just didn't speak out enough against. He spoke out against the Raiders, but it was kind of low key, and I guess the Bo Jackson thing, but can't really find too much with Marcus. Keyshawn talked too much for a guy, pet peeve for a guy who I didn't think was a top flight receiver. And with the book and all that, and it always sounded like he was marking himself. He got a bit annoying with that. Sap, he was pretty loud and boasters, but I had no problem with it. He did his job. I don't think there was too much I could say against Sap in that regard. I really had no pet peeve against him. I just hated he had to go to Oakland because I knew that retirement old folks home for him, and that was a sad way for his career to end. T.O., because he always blamed everybody. Some things he was right about, but sometimes it looked like he was just finger pointing and he didn't want to own up to just, you know, and then, you run yourself out of so many places and then you end up just being a hired hand. And that's the sad part. He was cut from the OJ school. He was ready to be like OJ and Brian Gumble. It was set up for a nice, middle, comfortable vibe. Um, California type of brother, like them blondes. No bucking or purse, not like that. But let's just say he's really low key. You don't really get, he ain't gonna come out and say talk about the '92 verdict with the LA riots or nothing. He's a cautious brother. But he was cut from the OJ school. He had crossover and he played it. OJ was his hero and mentor. He had brother in him, but California brother's a little bit different too. That's another video that I have to explain because I figured that out. They tend to be a little bit different. So just saying. Give me about a half hour. I gotta go get me a bite. So I'm gonna come back. I gotta go eat real quick and drink. I will be back. So if you be on, I'll catch you in a half hour because we're gonna continue this. This is a good one too. All right, I'll be out. Peace. Best stay up. I'll be back. Come watch out for my hit because it's gonna come back. All right, I'm out.